On the internet, manipulating and gaming the number of views is easy. Manipulating user engagement is not.
More companies die out of indigestion than starvation.
A brand cannot demand a viral piece of content. It can demand a video. Virality is a collective decision that the internet makes.
Creating friction by asking information from users does not make for learning enough about your users.
The product shot is dead. You're better served by 100 out of 100,000 people noticing your subtle branding than all 100,000 people noticing your not subtle branding and hating you for it.
Discounting cannot substitute user experience and quality. Being valuable can.
So my first story, this is not a story so much as learning from a collection of experiences, is when we started working with brands, one of the things that in a lot of meetings people would tell us is, have you seen this video? Let's try and make something like that. Have you seen that video? Let's try and make something like that. And they'd point us to videos that very mysteriously had 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 million views, and we couldn't understand how. And then we started looking deeper, and we realized that somehow there's 5 million views on this video, but 20 likes and 3 comments. It is physically not possible that 5 million people came and saw your video and somehow only 20 of those 5 people were moved to like it. It is not possible that 5 million people came to your channel and saw your video and only 2 of them had something that they wanted to say about it. Which is the point at which we went back and started looking at all of these videos that we'd been recommended, and we saw a pattern of a high number of views, but absolutely no engagement with that video of any kind. Nobody commenting on it, nobody expressing an opinion on it, like, dislike, no stories about it online, nobody sharing it online, which was when we realized that people were buying views because it's a great metric to show your client. It's a great metric to sort of go back and say, look, 5 million views and client is happy. But what we realized was that those views were pointless for the client because they were just manufactured. And the conversation was what dictated the video's virality. You can have 400,000 views, but 5,000 comments on your video, which means 5,000 people have had a conversation about your content. They have taken away something from your content, and that is what makes your content a success.
I remember in 2001 when the dot-com bust hit India, I went from 150 people down to 6, including an office boy. I moved from a 2,500 square foot to a 136 square foot apartment in Bandra. The only difference was that I was opposite the Siddhivinayak temple in Prabhadevi then, and when the bust happened, I went to a bar, next to a bar, and that's where the hockey stick growth happened. It's been 18 years, and I think most people think that the solution to most problems is cash. And today, the barriers to entry in the digital world and in our business is so low that 2 kids sitting out of a garage in Pune can build a business. Capital is so easily available today. There is, at that time, there were only bank. Today, it's become so easy. There's angel funding. There are angels, who are not really angels, but there are angels floating around. There are VCs. There is PEs. And then there are all these different names, and they're like doling out cash. And everybody starts, and most entrepreneurs start today, not in looking at trying to solve a problem or being passionate about something. They're saying, iska valuation kitna milega? In 3 years, I'm going to exit. That is the job of the VC. That's the job of the guy who's putting in the money to say, the meter starts ticking, I have a fund, I want to exit, how are you going to give me the returns? The job of the entrepreneur is to pursue a dream, to have a passion, and build a great business. We denied ourselves that capital, not because we didn't need it, or didn't want it, or didn't have the ability to raise it. I've always raised capital in a downturn. We just raised a round of funding when the markets, everybody's saying, toot gaya hai market. Nobody is raising capital. We raised it because we didn't have our back to the wall. We didn't have a gun to our head. We are EBITDA positive, we are PAT positive. We don't need the cash, and we raised it in this environment. And I think that is important to realize that today I find that most companies and a lot of companies are bereft of ideas, and they die because of excess cash, and they do stupid things by buying the wrong assets, by blowing up money on business class tickets, by having and saying, listen, we'll build a product team sitting out of the valley when you've got kids at 1/10 the price in Bangalore. And so most companies, I believe, today die because of indigestion and not starvation.
Everybody wants content in the digital space. Very few people actually understand it. The first thing that I learned is 9 out of 10 people with the word digital expert in their name are either lying or have a very high estimation of their own abilities. So a lot of people will sit down in meetings with you and say that they want a viral. We had meeting after meeting after meeting, and we came out disheartened, at which point we finally just decided to be honest, where we looked at brand managers and we said, look, you cannot define a viral right at the start. It's the equivalent of going to a director before he's ever made a movie, before he's shot a movie, before anything, and saying, bro, मेरे को 200 crore का hit चाहिए. You can't put a number on it. The people will decide whether it's a 200 crore hit or not. You don't get to build that into your demand right there. You want a movie. The people decide whether it's a 200 crore movie or not. In that same way, you want content. Virality is something that people will decide, and online, it does not matter how much money you throw at the problem. It cannot buy you virality. You can buy 5 million views, but you cannot buy conversation. You really cannot buy conversation, and virality is a function of views and conversation. So when you're making a video, please have an expectation or at least an allowance for failure built in, because anything can happen. You can have a video that has Madhuri Dixit, Ranveer Singh, Ranbir Kapoor, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Barack Obama in it, and the day you put it out there, a bomb blast could happen somewhere, and the news cycle turns away from your content to something else. And that's it. That's the end.
If you are customers of Book My Show, one of the things that you'll realize about us, in 18 years, we've never asked you for F-Connect. It's not a mandatory connection that we need to make. We don't ask you what's your name, what's your gender, what's your mother's name, father's name, family income. We have never asked you for information. Come use us for free. Many people tried AP tests, many people ask you for information right up front. But if you are a Book My Show user, the only time I ask you for your email ID and mobile numbers when you're checking out. And that's because I need to send you the ticket on your mobile phone, or I need to email it to you. But I know everything about you. I don't need to create friction to know more about you. I don't need to know your gender, but I know where you purchase and consume your movies. So I know a ballpark region where you live in. I know your frequency. I know you come and consume certain content where you look at my trailer, but then you don't buy from me. Today, I have an SDK in my app which starts every 15 minutes, and I'm pinging you. And most brands do. How do you think Google Maps work? We all open Google Maps. They are pinging you every time to give you the green lines and the orange lines and red lines. Do you think it's coming out of air? It's coming from your phones to know exactly where you are. Similarly, I know that you come to me today we're on a Wednesday, you look at a trailer on Book My Show, and then you don't do anything about it. But then I see some pings at PVR Phoenix from you, and I know you went and bloody watched a movie there, but you didn't buy it from me. And that's why I couldn't buy my beer this weekend. And I know that about you. So there is so much information that we know, and we do all this algorithmic heavy lifting on big data at the back end to understand our users. Now that's the scary bit, right? There's this big brother watching. Uber knows everything. Ola knows everything. We know everything. Google knows everything. So beware.
Creating content requires money. Brands have money. Brands will give you money, but in exchange for money, because of a certain method of thinking, brands want a product shot, which is essentially a shot of somebody looking into the camera and doing like, hey? Online, that is dead. It doesn't work, because it's just, that's not how you're consuming content online. You are not, like when I watch a TV show, my expectation of advertising is built into it. I am expecting 2 commercial breaks. I am expecting all of that. When I'm watching content online, especially if I have grown up with the internet, advertising expectations are not built into the content as a viewer. So which is why when we work with brands, we try to advise them to make their product use as subtle as possible. Obviously not to the point where the product is not visible at all, because the standard product shot is what we have found just from our user engagement, and this is looking at our backend. A lot of times you get to see where a viewer tunes out of a video. That's one of the great things about YouTube's backend is you can see exactly the point at which somebody said, I'm not watching this video anymore. I won't say for which video, but there is one video in particular where we saw that the drop-off was steepest around the brand integration point. And we realized that that's because the brand integration was not subtle. The brand integration was very obvious, and that was the point at which the viewer felt tricked, cheated almost, into watching an ad and turned away from that.
You need to go through 11 clicks even as a high-using customer, to buy a ticket on our mobile app. We were probably the first to actually build a mobile apps team. We moved from being a call center and home delivery company to a web-only company to a mobile app company, and now we're moving into newer platforms, which you'll hear of soon. But we've realized that humans are creatures of habit, and when you go through these 11 clicks, not necessarily all need to do those interactions and exploration. So we've come up with this exploration, which we are launching soon, where I know, based on your history, what is the kind of movie that you tend to watch, what is the content. So my recommendation engine shows me kids movies and English movies in my own database, and that's because I have a 4.5-year-old son. I probably watched a kid movie, so that's what's coming up now. And I watch English movies. It also shows me PVR Juhu, because that's the region I live in, and it's seeing my my history. It's also showing me mostly evening shows, because I come back after work. And it shows me Tuesday night shows, because I'm a Sindhi and a cheapskate, because Tuesday night movies are at $150 as opposed to $300. So if you look at my new interaction, it shows me PVR Juhu, English movie, all the shows from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock on a Tuesday evening. But more importantly, it also shows me the seats I tend to book, and it pre-allocates those seats for me. Because I usually sit right in the center. I'm not that old, my bladder's fine, I don't need to go to a lube break. I sit in the center, few seats at the back, few seats in the front. I have no ego about saying I'm on the last seat, because you don't get the digital Dolby experience, so I'm always in the center. It knows my F&B preference. So it pre-populates all this data, and it's literally 2 clicks from the time I complete my transaction. That to me is more invaluable to users than saying, listen, take a $50 off. And for me, having and creating value for customers by understanding their needs and preferences and being able to deliver that through great user experience is more important, and Apple has taught us that, and that's what we endeavor to be.
Your messaging or your content or whatever it is that you want to do will go much further online if you can make it profitable for other people. Let me explain what I mean when I say profitable. I don't mean in terms of money, but in terms of when we put content online, for example, what we found is that when we put it on an easily embeddable platform, like YouTube, for example, it always goes further, because what happens is there's now a sort of farm around YouTube, which is whether it's your BuzzFeed, or whether it's your Story Pick, or whether it's your Scoop Whoop, or whether it's even your news channels now, whether it's CNN News, or whether it's all of these people. Everybody will take that video, embed it onto a page of their website, and then write a token 200-word story around it. Because they know that linking to it gets them page views, but at the same time, every time the video is clicked on, it gets me a view. But I've gotten that extra view by being able to give them a further 10,000 page views, because they can now share the video off of Twitter and on Facebook and share a story saying, here, scoopwhoop.com, check out this video. And just by making it, like giving them incentives to share it and to get page views, I found that my viewers is going up versus putting it on a more restrictive platform. Like we found that one of the most broken apps in terms of sharing externally is Instagram. Its content does not embed onto Twitter. You have to physically click on the link, get out of Twitter, go to the Instagram app to see the post. So the traction is significantly lower. So yeah, my insight would be is please put your content in places, the further you want its reach to be, in places where it can earn clicks for other people.
Don't talk about buying views, but about the conversations that you can create. And I think one big example recently has been the launch of this app called Musical.ly. And if you look at Instagram and Musical.ly, it's created rock stars and celebrities of these unknown faces and contributors. And it is an exercise in vanity on how many followers they have. And I think that's the emotion that you need to play on, because they need X number of followers. So you can be somebody because they're huge on Instagram, they're huge on Musical.ly, and that's something that we at Book My Show need to sort of imbibe and take on as far as social virality is concerned.